It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
Off and running. Welcome in another edition of Musso at the box. We are presented by Gott Lit Light Installers, gottlitlights.com. LSU, they dispatch of Xavier 18-4 on Tuesday night. They closed the pre-conference slate with a record of 17-1 and now steamroll right into the 30-game gauntlet that is the Southeastern Conference. This is where a lot of people like to say the real season begins, and it begins on Friday when the Tigers host Missouri for game one of a 3-game series. And, well, if you've been listening to this show for any length of time, you know that means it's time for listener Q&A. We like to do them spaced throughout the year, normally one at the beginning of the season when they hit SEC play, and then again in the postseason, and then again in the offseason. Well, here comes SEC play. Put out the call for questions on Twitter a night ago. As always, y'all respond. We will go through them good bit here, so I'll try to get through all of them. Again, some of them are repeated, so we'll group them together and things of that nature. But buckle up, smash the like button if you have not already. Get subscribed up, YouTube channel, and on your favorite podcast app. Just search Musso at the box. Hit the subscribe. You'll take us with you wherever you go. Follow me on social media as well. Those handles scroll below. But for our listening audience only, Twitter, Musso Matthew, Instagram, Matthew Musso 1. You can find me on Facebook as well. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. Y'all didn't just answer the call. Y'all sent in some bangers of questions. Now, not that you don't always. I mean, always. They're great questions that always kind of, make me think and try to find. It maybe was a little bit more difficult with this team because they've just shown to be so deep. And we'll reference that for a few of these. Just a dominant slate so far for LSU, and now the real season begins. But because they are so deep, a lot of the questions we share, and we're still looking for answers for. And that's what's going to be so interesting about the SEC slate, right? That's where it does become, the real season, because this is where, the upper echelon of a deep team will separate from the middle tier of a very deep team, and you'll ultimately figure out what is your best combination, and you'll roll with it. And everyone who maybe is just on the outside looking in still ends up playing pivotal roles because the club is, so deep. I mean, it's easily the deepest team that Jay Johnson has had in his time at LSU. But let's go ahead and dive right into some of the questions. We'll start with JJ Kavanaugh on Twitter. I loved this question, and that's why we're going to start with it. He asks, rank the bullpen arms. Who do you feel best about? So we're going to separate them into 3 tiers, okay? Tier number 1 is immediate guys we trust. No doubt, any situation, you need outs, tight game, whatever it might be, inherited runners, whatever it might be, you need outs in a big spot in the SEC. Who do you trust? The top, you're giving them the ball, no questions asked. You know they're going to go out there and get the job done. That's your top tier. And in that top tier, I have Kason Evans, Zach Cowan, William Schmidt, Gavin Guidry when he returns. And hopefully Gavin Guidry is back this weekend, still doing that lower back. He threw bullpens over the weekend when they were facing North Alabama. Progress still seems like it is on the right track. They're just going to take it slow. But when he comes back, he's in that category too because, we've seen him do it for 2 years. Those are the 4 that I put in that top category of you need the tight spot, the sticky spot, inherited runners on base. You need 3 outs at the end of a game. Leverage spot. Those are the 4 I go to immediately and say, yeah, I have no doubt that they're going to get the job done. You move to the next tier, and I would label this guys on the cusp. But I want to start with one in particular who's kind of in the middle of on the cusp and right there to where, yeah, you just absolutely trust in the leverage spot. And that's Connor Binge. And I put him kind of there alone because Connor Binge was the guy, when I really sat down and thought and looked at this question, he was the guy I had the toughest time placing. And it's really for one reason, and it's the walk number. Connor Binge has appeared 6 times. That's second on the team, tied for second on the team. And you've seen him in high leverage spots. And outside of one, that was the game against Omaha, that first game of the doubleheader, he's really delivered. But it hasn't always been clean. And when you get into conference play, you need it to be a little cleaner because these are the best teams that you're going to face all season. In 7 1/3 innings, he's walked 6 and struck out 8. 6 walks is a lot. And you could say, well, how many of those came in the outing against Omaha? The answer is not as many as you would think. In that outing against Omaha, Connor Binge walked 1. In his last 5 innings, or excuse me, his last 4 innings, he's walked 4. Trying to make sure I have his inning count right. Pardon. 1, 2, 3, 4. His last 4 innings, he's walked 4, struck out 3. Now, he hasn't given up runs in those. He's pitched around it. And again, leverage spot against Kansas State. You saw him pitch twice in that weekend against Kansas State and Sam Houston. So that's something that checks his box. If he can clean up that walk number, he absolutely moves into that upper tier of guys you immediately trust. But when you look at the arms I put there, Kason Evans. Kason Evans has walked 3 guys in 10 innings. Zach Cowan has walked 2 in 14 1/3. William Schmidt has walked 3 in 13 1/3. Like, they've been the most consistent, just pound the zone all day, every day, not giving up hits, all of that. Binge just needs to clear up the walks because the opponents are just hitting 130. So he's right there in the middle, just his own little tier of top and on the cusp. Now, we move into arms who I believe are on the cusp. Cooper Williams. Connor Ware. DJ Primo. Jaden Newt. Those would be, well, I'm going to make an executive decision here real time and bump Jaden Newt down. So Cooper Williams, Connor Ware, DJ Primo. All guys on the cusp of being those next great relievers. And the key thing there is they're all left-handed. And that is one of my biggest, I don't know if you want to call it concerns, but it's one of the things I have to see going forward from this team is an established, consistent left-handed reliever. And for those guys, and quite honestly, I'll tell you, the one I think is closest right now, it's either Ware or Primo. But for those guys, the walk number really needs to improve a little bit. I mean, you look at a guy like Cooper Williams. Cooper Williams has appeared 5 times. He hasn't given up a hit. He hasn't given up an earned run, but he's walked 5 guys in 4 2/3. Like, if he figures that out, he's going to be lethal and a big part down the stretch of this season for LSU because the stuff plays plenty. I mean, it's a fastball, low to mid 90s, really good breaker. He just needs to improve command. It's not that his misses are wild. He just needs to improve the command of it. And I think that will continue to come. And they will find time to get him in ball games so he can expand on that. And again, you need quality, consistent left-handed relieving options on this team. DJ Primo statistically has been the best out of that group. 6 appearances, sub 2 ERA. It's just 5 innings in those 6 appearances, but he's only walked 3 and struck out 5. The opponent's hitting sub 200. All of those things. Primo's pitching around some of the trouble he's getting himself into in batters. It's a lot of deep counts from him. So if he's going to come in and be the shutdown lefty guy you need out of the pen, or a matchup lefty guy that you need out of the pen, which is an extremely important role, especially late in season when you're playing for championships. It just needs to be more consistent, immediate strikes out of the bullpen. I think he's capable of that. Again, the stuff, pretty good. He can run it up low 90s from the left side, and it's a good breaking ball as well. But you're just looking for more consistency, get ahead, stay ahead type stuff from Primo. And then Connor Ware, we talked about this in the recap from the Xavier game. I really wanted to see him bounce back a little bit, man. You've seen him be so awesome his first 2 times out, and the last 2 times out, it's been struggles with free passes. It's been struggles with, honestly, just giving up hits, and his defense has let him down at times, sure, but the lack of a consistent put away for Connor Ware the last 2 times out kind of bumps him down to this on the cusp tier right now. That being said, he will eventually, I believe, and I think for LSU to really get where they want to go, Connor Ware needs to bump himself back up into that, no doubt you count on him, any situation type tier, because he is extremely versatile and can pitch 1 inning, extend, close out a game, come get a bat. He could do so many things. We've likened him to a Griffin Herring in the type of role that he could fill because of the many different areas of the game he can go in and pitch in. Next is guys, and this is the final tier, guys I want to see a lot more of, because I think they can be wild cards for LSU down the stretch. Jaden Newt. And I think Jaden Newt's pitched really well his last few times out, and I really like the stuff. The reason I have to put him in this tier right now is because he now totals 8 career college appearances, and now you're hitting the SEC. I don't think you can just immediately give him the baseball and be like, okay, go get me outs. You need to see a little bit more. And you will see him this weekend against Missouri, and I'll be very curious to watch what situation they put him in. But that guy can absolutely be an X factor and a wild card for LSU later in the season. Maverick Rizzi, same deal. And for Rizzi, it's command. 6 walks in 6 innings. It's too many. He can throw 100. That's awesome. The slider is absolutely wicked, but dotting those pitches for him has been suspect here early. But with the stuff, the size, all the potential, they're going to keep running him out there. He is tied for the team lead in appearances right now, heading into conference play. You're going to see more of Maverick Rizzi, and I want to. And then you get into kind of really everybody else just wedged into that category. And I don't know if you see them in a SEC play like Jacob Myers, like Chandler Dorsey, Cade Woods, Grant Fontenot, but you definitely start to see those guys carve out roles in the midweek for sure. And that's ultimately where they are going to have to, I believe, cut their teeth, earn their stripes before getting more shots at the weekend. So there you go, JJ. Great question. I started with that one because I thought so, and I knew it would take me a while to kind of get through all of it. Let me remind you real quick about Gott Lit light installers, and we'll get to the rest of the questions. GottLitLights.com. GottLitLights.com. You go there for your quote. It's not just Christmas lights anymore. I want to stress that. They have expanded the business. They are helping your home be illuminate, be extravagant all throughout the year. Permanent landscape lighting. I know all of you just did work in your yards or starting to do work in your yards with springtime coming. Add some light. Add that pop that just takes your home to the next level. Permanent landscape, outdoor lighting from Gott Lit Lights. And then again, if you're hosting events, weddings, anniversary parties for your home or business, receptions, graduation parties, birthday parties, any type, just a random cookout, anything you're doing and you need to illuminate your space, premier, temporary outdoor lighting that is custom designed, cut to fit. Anyone can install lights for you. Gott Lit Lights, they are going to come and maintain, install, tear down, store, all those things. And they're going to do it with great customer service and great relationship building. Go work with Derek and his team. GottLitLights.com to get a quote. Gott Lit Light Installers, because everything looks better when it's lit. All right. Couple people asked about Gavin Guidry. Kind of touched on that a little earlier. dealing with the back. He's throwing bullpens. They like the progress. Target is Missouri, but they're not going to rush it. La Cobra or La Cabra on Twitter asks, what is the story on the catching rotation? Will Priester start showing up more potentially over Aaron Beatty? The story on your catcher rotation right now is it's Luis Hernandez. I think that's clear. Luis Hernandez has started, oh man, 5 out of the last 6, I believe, for LSU. Starting with that second game against, he started second game against North Dakota State, Friday, Saturday, and Tuesday. 4 out of the last 5, for LSU. They've ramped him up, and that's going to be your catcher going forward. I think you definitely still see Cade Aaron Beatty. Blaze Priester, he hadn't got a start yet. So, and he had a pretty gruesome pass ball the other night. But I mean, look, catching has been an issue for LSU. It's a big question mark still left on this team. But Luis Hernandez is that guy going forward. He should be. He's the veteran. He was ranked the number 10 catcher in college baseball by D1 heading into this season. He's hitting the ball the best out of all of them as well. I mean, right now, Luis Hernandez is at 275, had a really nice night on Tuesday, as did everybody in the LSU lineup. But I mean, you compare anything and everything in his numbers with the others, it clearly points to him, and he will be your primary guy going forward. Honkus on Twitter, will we continue to see Bear running come SEC play? Says he doesn't particularly care for it. So here's my thing. I actually don't think Bear Jones has run all that much. I think everyone just makes a big deal about it because it's Bear Jones. Like when he does it and he's been successful at doing it, it's like, holy crap. I mean, he's only attempted 5 stolen bases on the year. Right? So I don't think he runs any more than he has been, and you might see them pare his running down. I don't think they pare down the running in general. That's a part of who this team is. They want to be aggressive. I think they've gotten better at it throughout the season. I think they will just continue, and it adds another dimension to this offense, man. When you're having to think and think and think about everything else going on the base paths, you know, the pressure it puts immediate, instant pressure on you just because it's in the back of your mind. And then you can lose focus to the batter at the plate. It changes the game. When you have an offense like LSU that has been so locked in at the plate in their approach, in their plan, that they're going to hit the mistakes you throw up there if your mind is elsewhere. So with Bear Jones, I don't know. And again, I don't really think he's actually run that much. I just think it's been magnified because of who it is running. I also will say this. He looks leaner this year. He looks leaner. I mean, even the uniform is fitting a little looser. He looks like he leaned out and added even more muscle, which is scary. But so I think that's also kind of contributed to him running more, right? But I don't know in conference. But I do think LSU as a team, they keep that up for all the reasons that we just went through. It puts instant pressure all over the team. Josh on Twitter, does Jay sacrifice defense to keep Reeves bad in the lineup? Small sample size, as Reeves has only had a handful of chances at third defensively, but leaves a lot to be desired. Yes. Short answer, yeah. Tanner Reeves is your guy, and I know somebody else asked that as well. On here, I mean, Jeremy Weiss asked about Reeves and the lineup coming together quicker. Aiden asked about Reeves. Is he undoubtedly the guy? So yes, Tanner Reeves is your starting third baseman right now, 100%. And you look at Michael Braswell, pinch hit bat, also defensive replacement, because the defense, while albeit a small sample size for Reeves over there, Tanner Reeves on the year is fielding 867 so far. Again, small sample size, but that's definitely one of the lower totals on the team. And it's been some pretty routine plays that have been there. But he's hitting 333, 2 homers. He smashed 3 doubles. Like the guy's slugging 633. That's going to be your answer going forward. Now, does it continue? Right now it's set. But does it translate? Can Tanner Reeves hit SEC pitching? We don't know the answer to that question yet. And we'll start to find that out over the next few weeks. But as of now, I think he is your guy. Tanner Reeves has started definitely the last 4 games for LSU, and it might actually be the last 5. I'd have to go back and look at that box score from North Dakota State and things of that nature. But I know for sure it's the last 4. And yes, I think he's your guy going forward. And you look at Braswell more as a late inning defensive replacement and or pinch hit option for now. We'll see what happens when Reeves gets into conference play. Let's see. What starter goes the deepest? Will we get 6 out of all 3 guys? I'm going to assume you're talking about this weekend. I do not think you get 6 out of all 3 guys. I would say that Cade Anderson goes the deepest this week for LSU on a Friday night. Loved this question too. At PLG987, what would your grade be for the non-conference slate? Letter grade or scale of 1 to 10? We'll go letter grade. I would give LSU A-. I think they've been absolutely fantastic. They went 17-1. They dominated the majority of those games. They went to Frisco and swept through a very competitive tournament with a team like Kansas State, who I expect to be in the field of 64 at the end of the season. Same with Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska was picked to finish second in the Big Ten. So, I mean, that like you went and won tight games there. You had a lot of big character building wins. You got to see guys in leverage spots. Like, I mean, they threw William Schmidt out there in front of 11,000 people on that Saturday against Nebraska. That's a hyped up environment. Obviously, we talked about Connor Benj earlier, so loved that. That opening weekend, man, you were just as dominant as you needed to be. Now, you drop down to A- because there's been some issues with walks so far, kind of through a little bit. The command has been, up and down. I said a couple weeks earlier this week, I think LSU settles in somewhere in between where they were the first 8 games and now the last 2 that we've seen, somewhere in between there with command, which is plenty good enough. They'll throw plenty of strikes in that regard. And then obviously you lost that game to Omaha on that 10-inning stretch was a really, really that was the black eye on the pre-conference. So I do have to ding you for that a little bit. But overall, you went 17-1. LSU pitched to an ERA just north of 3. Right now, 3.06. They hit 346. You've seen the power come as the weather has started to change. A- for LSU here through the pre-conference. They did exactly what they needed to do. And in doing so, it came together. And I think we learned a lot about this team. And you have a great starting point. Let me be clear, a great starting point for SEC play. You will continue to learn more about them over the next 30 games. And we'll find out just who this team really, really is. That brings me to this question from Joe B. Bold prediction before SEC play, like Fry or Larson entering the lineup as starter. Maybe one of the starters losing a day or switch up any days because by the end of the season, it won't look like it does now. And my answer to you on that, Joe, is twofold. I don't want it to sound like a cop-out because I don't mean it to be a cop-out. I think we've actually kind of already seen that happen. Like the conversation we just had with Tanner Reeves. Tanner Reeves wasn't your opening day third baseman. And now he's got a stranglehold on that position going into conference play. So, I mean, like, I think that's kind of already there. If I had to pick a starter that might lose their role, I think it's either one of either your number 2 or your number 3. I think Anderson's got his role pretty locked in right now. He's been the most consistent, the most efficient of all your guys, and him finally making it through 6 innings was very encouraging going forward. But I think they really like what they have there in the rotation right now. Not to say that it won't change because you have plenty of options. I think if there is one guy who would break into that, it's William Schmidt. I mean, that's if there's a guy who breaks into the rotation, William Schmidt. So that might be my bold prediction. But then again, I don't think that's really that bold. He's been awesome. That's the thing. None of these are bold because LSU is so deep. I mean, would it be a surprise to anybody listening right now if by the end of the year, Ethan Fry is in the starting lineup? It shouldn't be because he's played in 15 games. He's got 28 at-bats, and he's hitting 357. He's finally healthy. I mean, would it really be a surprise to anybody if Ashton Larson breaks back into the starting lineup? Man, I loved seeing the ball fall for him the other night. Now, granted, that was pure luck. I mean, it was a pop-up. He should have been caught in shallow right field, and it wasn't. But, man, when you've been struggling like he has, just seeing that fall in, that could be the thing that ignites him. So, like, would that be surprising? No. Would it really be surprising to anybody if Michael Braswell figures it back out? Guy who hit 310 and he's back in your starting lineup by the end of the year? No. I don't think any of that is bold. So, I mean, if I had to pick one, I would say it's Schmidt that breaks into the weekend rotation and takes either Saturday or Sunday, because I think Cade Anderson is pretty cemented. And when we get to the preview for the weekend, we'll talk about why I think Cade Anderson is better suited to get SEC hitters out this season. So hold tight for that. All right, we are getting towards the end here. Ty Floyd Fever, one of the great Twitter handles from yesteryear of LSU baseball. Who's your go-to pinch hit late in the game? Situational. I mean, man, if it's a lefty on the mound, I have all the confidence in the world right now in Ethan Fry to go out there and take a great at bat off of a lefty and probably deliver, because he's done that plenty, and that's really where you've seen him be inserted there. If it's a righty, I mean, I think you look at a guy like Larson. Say Pearson and Brown are in the starting lineup. I think you look at a guy like Larson, who the sample size of his career has been very good at the plate. Yes, he's fallen on some hard times here lately, but that's still a guy you absolutely trust. He played in big spots and big moments for you a year ago. But that is going to depend on the situation. I mean, pinch hitting always depends on situation and matchup and things of that nature. So, I mean, a lot of it's going to depend on who's in the lineup that day, because you could see a scenario where Josh Pearson comes off the bench to pinch hit. You could see a situation where Jake Brown comes off the bench to pinch hit. Although I don't think that's very likely right now because he's hitting 391. But I mean, I would tell you right now, if there's a lefty on the mound, Ethan Fry is the go-to guy right there. John Pearson, again, another one though too. I mean, and it's limited. He's played in 12 games, but he's got just 9 at bats. But he's hitting 444. Like, he's left the yard. He's driven in runs. He had a great pinch hit against Dallas Baptist. There's a lot. That ties into the last question. Like, it's hard to come up with something bold because damn near everyone they've put in there has contributed. And that's another thing that makes this pre-conference such a success, is they've gotten so many different guys work. And you've seen so many different guys succeed and produce. It's very, very encouraging. Very, very encouraging going forward. At Clout Lord 225, who do you think is the spunkiest Tiger, and why is it Stephen Milam? Stephen Milam's got some spunk, but I would see your Stephen Milam and raise you Danny Dickinson. Danny Dickinson's got some edge. And that's just, he's very similar to Milam, and just a guy who's just going to absolutely outwork you. And when you combine that with the talent that both of those guys have, the spunk really plays into that. Arthur, what will LSU's SEC record be? 19-11. That's what I gave out preseason. I'll stick with it. 19-11. I normally always settle in right around there when you have a team of this caliber. Could they end up with 20-10? Sure. Could they end up better than that? Of course. You win games you aren't supposed to. You end up losing games maybe you aren't supposed to. That's why I end up looking at the average there, kind of like 19-11. So I will go 19-11, Arthur. Chris McKinney, if Missouri beats one of our starting pitchers this weekend, who is it? I hate to say this because I think he's actually pitched pretty well, and I think he's had some really rough luck the last couple of weeks. But Shores, and the only reason I say that is because it's Sunday and crazy things happen on Sunday. Sunday is a very hard game to predict, so I would say that. But I really like LSU starting pitchers this weekend against Missouri, and I think I think you have a lot of potential for no decisions maybe for LSU starters potentially, but not even that because Missouri's pitching staff's been rough. So I like LSU's offense to kind of keep rolling. But so I wouldn't necessarily say a pitcher, but a day Sunday, because it's Sundays. Weird things happen. And believe me, there is not a game I want to see LSU win more this weekend than Sunday, given all the issues you had a season ago. But you've been really good in game 3 so far this season. In fact, LSU's undefeated in game 3, which was not the case a year ago heading into conference play. So that's what I would submit to you there. All right, guys, we made it through all of them. We made it through all of them. I appreciate all the questions. Smash the like button. Get subscribed. YouTube channel and your favorite podcast app. Follow me on social media. And be here next time for more. We are previewing the opening weekend in SEC play, LSU and Missouri, next time on Musso at the Box, presented by Gott Lit Light Installers.